Hello, and welcome to the C3Method Podcast with your host, Robert Polenick. Our goal is to educate you on everything health and fitness related with a clear, concise, and customized approach. We want you to know what you need to know and how to apply it in a way that fits you best. Today's podcast number 2316. We're going to discuss the number one reason why goals fail. And there's going to be, a myriad of reasons. However, one broad, sweeping reason that we're going to talk about today is often when people set goals, they set what they want to achieve, but they don't always discuss the how. How are they actually going to do those what's? So they might know that they want to eat these foods. Well, how are you going to make sure that those foods are in your house, that you have the right portions, that you can prepare and cook them whenever you need to eat them? We need to talk about the systems that we're going to use to ensure that we can do the actions that we need to do in order to reach our goals. So that is the number one mistake I see that people make when they're setting goals, is they talk about the what, but not always the how. They talk about where they want to get to, but they don't talk about the system that they're going to use in order to get there. This is something we want to address. This is actually the first thing that we address whenever I do consultations with new clients. We talk about their friction points, and these would be the things that kind of get in their way. Another way people often refer to them as they're their excuses, they're the obstacles in the way. We can think about the common ones: I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough resources, whatever those things might be. We're actually going to go through some of the most common ones today. I want to give just a couple off the top of my head insights into how we address that for clients, for myself, just ways in which I've seen that people have been successful at working through that friction point. My goal here is to enlighten people on the broad concept that if you want to be successful, there is going to be something in your way. There's a reason why you're not successful already. There's a reason why we're maybe not eating healthy, or for sport performance, fat loss, muscle building, whatever the goal of our nutrition might be. There's a reason why we're not doing it already. Same thing with exercise, same thing with finances, relationship, whatever it might be that you want to get better at. There's a reason why we're not already better at it. And what I'd like to do is encourage you to recognize what that reason is and start to explore how to work through it. Often when people get frustrated, they'll run into their issue, their excuse, their obstacle, and they see it as an immovable object. However, if we want to get to the other side, we do have to learn how to move it, get over it, get around it, get through it, get under it, whatever the heck we have to do, we have to get to the other side. That is the goal of today's podcast. Let's talk about the common friction points that I review with clients and ways in which we have worked through, around, over, under, whatever, to get to the other side. Now, the first one we look at is when people say they don't have enough time. They're too busy to eat, too busy to cook, too busy to exercise. With this one, with all of them, there's not going to be a fun way to answer this to where it's, oh, you get to do everything you're currently doing now, just make this mental switch or do this one thing and everything will change. You don't have to change anything, but if you do this one thing, everything changes. That's not the case. Unfortunately, there aren't long-term, sustainable, successful, quick fixes. There you go. They're called quick fixes for a reason, because they're quick, and that's about, hopefully our goal would be is they're quick in effort, but unfortunately they're also quick in lasting results. When we say that we don't have time, most commonly, this is due to prioritization. People would benefit from sitting down and saying, okay, of all the things that I do with my time, of all the things that consume my time, where would I rank these in most important to least important? And now there is going to be kind of like a time-sensitive component. There might be something that's not really that important long-term, but is kind of really important short-term, and vice versa. There's going to be nuances to this. So when we go through a consultation with clients, we schedule a full hour to go through the whole process. And sometimes we'll take extra time, sometimes we'll do a whole nother session, whatever is needed for that person to feel confident with understanding how they're going to work through their issue. When we look at time, write down everything. There's a billion and one answers, but one thing you could do is every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour of the day, write down what you did for the last 15, 30 minutes, or 1 hour. So if we take an example of 1 hour, is at 9 o'clock, write down everything you've done from 8 to 9. At 10 o'clock, write down everything you've done from 9 to 10. This can seem super tedious. If that seems too overwhelming, you can do it in 3-hour chunks, 4-hour chunks. I've actually done this in 15-minute chunks. That can feel overwhelming, but my gosh, you miss a lot less when the time zones are really small. So what you'll notice you're doing with your time in 15-minute segments is going to be a lot more precise than, say, 3-hour or 4-hour segments. I've gone and done this multiple times through my life in personal development, business development, just many lenses. And what I've found is there's a lot of times where I will be doing something that's urgent but not important, where it feels like, oh man, I got to do this right now. But if I look at all of the things that I would not be doing if I did that one thing, I would realize, oh crap, I should actually be doing this other thing, this other thing, or this other thing. This one thing might feel urgent, but it's not as important as these other things. A goofy example, and I'm going to try to keep them pretty surface level since we're going to go through a lot of information here, is if somebody says, oh, I don't get to work out as often, maybe their goal is to work out 3 times a week, and we look at all the things they're doing like food prep every single meal. We might start to look at, say, hey, instead of cooking 1 meal at a time, why don't you cook 2 portions? If you're going to cook dinner, cook 2 servings of dinner and have the other serving as tomorrow's lunch. And that's a fast way to kind of make it a little bit easier for food on the next day. Another example is if somebody's like, oh, I do a lot of laundry. And I've actually had this come up. So this is going to sound goofy, but this has actually been a discussion. Is I had one client say that she was very busy with laundry. Laundry took a lot of time. And that was contributing to why she couldn't work out. And her goal was 2 times a week. And she was missing it. She was some weeks none, some weeks 1. And she said, I just feel so bogged down with household chores. We talked about all the chores she's doing. We talked about the 4 Ds of kind of action management, time management. Is you can delete. Maybe what you're doing actually isn't that important. You can delegate. You can ask others to help out, and that's what we leaned into. She had some teenage kids that they could do some vacuuming and some chores around the house. So I asked her to do that. I asked her to ask them, and that helped a lot. So we have delete, we have delegate, we have defer. We just maybe don't do it as often. And then the last D is do. If we're going to do it, we have to learn how to do it more efficiently. For her, one of the things we did for laundry was defer. This is, again, goofy, but it was an answer. Is I asked her to have everyone in the household have at least 7 pairs of underwear. Probably going to need more in case they need more than 1 per day. But get 7 pairs of underwear, 7 pairs of socks, 7 shirts, 7 shorts, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. And our goal was to get, she's obviously going to need a little bit more than that. But we could minimize laundry. She was doing laundry almost every other day because one daughter wanted this shirt, a kid got, one of the boys got something dirty and wanted that the next day. And it was like, what are you doing? We don't need to be doing it this often. Let's get more of the basics. Let's cut down the frequency of laundry. Let's teach them. The one daughter was 13. I think the boy was 15 or something. Again, teenagers, they can do their own laundry. Let's teach them how to do that. They can, do the laundry for 1 or 2 items and not blow up the house. So that was really a transition for her, was transitioning from her kids being young to where she would have to do the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, all these type of daily chores. But they were actually old enough now, and she hadn't really recognized that and hadn't leaned into the role of kind of like a guide or empowering them to learn how to do these things. If they're going to be successful adults, they need to learn how to cook. If they're going to be successful adults, they need to learn how to do laundry, all of these things. So this was a great time for them to learn how to do that. And it was also a great time for them to see how mom was going to prioritize her health, her self-care and learn to kind of blend the community around her, so that way everybody within the community got a fair share of personal time, personal needs, personal just care, like that everybody kind of contributed for everybody else, rather than her having to carry the burden or the load unevenly for everyone else. Often what I see with adults who struggle to prioritize their health is because they were never modeled that from their parents. They never saw somebody do that, so they don't know how to do that themselves. This would be a great idea for a parent to start to model self-care for your children, so that way they can start to learn how to do that, and then they can do that as they become adults and have extended families and friends and groups and circles and whatever. They learn to be a part of a community. So that is something we can do, is breaking down our day into time segments, seeing what we're doing within each segment of the day, of everything I did within that segment. Can I delete anything? Is anything I'm doing actually not really that important? So maybe I doom scrolled for 30 minutes. Can I set a timer on my phone and kind of limit that now down to 20? Can I limit that down to 15? Can I just not doom scroll in the middle of the day? Maybe I don't need to check my Instagram or TikTok or whatever social media thing it is in the middle of the day. I can turn off notifications. That way you're not prompted by a notification in the middle of the day and all of a sudden 30 minutes later you got lost in social media world. There are a lot of things we can do once we are aware of what we're doing with our time. So we delete, defer, delegate, or do, and if you're going to do it, try to find more efficient ways to do it. This is one of the discussions I have with clients on weekly journals all the time, is if they struggled to meet their nutrition goal one day, we talk about, hey, what came up, what happened, what can we adjust in the future? A big thing is using things like Instacart and Amazon to help with grocery shopping, having food available. You can have non-perishables for sure, but also now some perishables being sent via Amazon. You can also use Instacart if you have those services available to you where you live. Those are great ways to cut down on grocery shopping time. You can also better ensure the frequency. You can set reminders in your phone. You can set reminders probably in those services as well to order a certain number of things per week. In my phone, I take care of the grocery shopping and cooking and everything for our family. And I have notes for what I order every week on Amazon. And I just check and see, do I need it this week or not? What I order every week on Instacart, check and see if I need it or not. And then we also have, once a week, we go to a trip to a local grocery store, which sometimes has better deals than I can find on Instacart. So I have that marked down to do that once a week, depending on what day that falls in. And sometimes we skip that and just do the Instacart order if we have a busy weekend or busy week. Sometimes we'll go do it. But these are things that I'm mindful of and I plan out, and that helps me be more efficient with my day. We also have time-wise, if you say I don't have enough time to eat, that would be a great time for non-perishables, fast, easy things you can grab and go out of the food pantry. You have, mixed nuts, trail mix, protein bars, protein powders. Meredith has like an instant oats that I think it's from Quaker Oats. It's like super high protein, banana nut flavor. She loves it. She does 2 packets of that. It gets her enough protein. I have quick options for myself. I have microwavable jasmine rice. It only takes 90 seconds to microwave. We got a, I don't even know what it's really called, but it's from the brand Ninja. And it's a multi-cooker device. You can bake, broil, air fry, probably do 1,000 other things I don't even know, but I just air fry some chicken in the morning. I get up in the morning, cut up a bunch of chicken into chunks. I put it in the air fryer. It only takes 12 minutes. I then have the chicken ready during the day. I can microwave the rice in the morning if I'd like, or for me, since I work from home, it's okay and kind of still convenient for me to microwave the rice at the same time I'm heating the chicken back up. The chicken takes 60 seconds, rice takes 90 seconds. So in 2.5 minutes, add 30 seconds to add a little bit of sauce or whatnot, put things, take things out of the fridge, put things back in the fridge. And then basically in 3 minutes, I have my meal ready. I can eat that meal in 3 minutes. I've tried, hopefully without choking. And I can have my meal in, prepped, quote unquote cooked, which is actually really reheated, and eaten in under 10 minutes. So finding things that you can use that are quick, easy, fast, grab and go type options helps a lot. You can also structure your day depending on the number of meals you might want to have. If you have smaller, more frequent meals, sometimes that's easier for some people because there isn't so much to prep and clean up. Others, they might like only having 2 or 3 meals a day. So they have one big meal in the beginning of the day when they're home. Maybe at work they have a small little quick something, and then they have a bigger meal at home in the evening. As long as they're controlling what needs to be controlled, for most people that's going to be calories and protein, how they dispense of their calories and protein throughout the day does have some impact on their experience as they push for results. But it often doesn't have overly significant impact on the actual results themselves. What this means is if somebody wants to get super lean, they want to lose body fat, and they heard eating 5 meals a day is best, but their schedule only allows 3 meals, then just do the 3 meals if that allows you to be more consistent. You might find that you're more hungry in between those meals, so you might need to switch to having more fats in those meals, which are slower digesting than carbohydrates. You might also bump up the protein because that's slower digesting as well, and that can help you feel more satiated between the meals. So if you have longer gaps between the meals, but you're dieting on a diet program that was set up for 5 meals, assuming that those meals would digest in time to eat the next one, you might have to change your foods. So a diet that was structured for 5 meals a day, but you're only eating 3 meals a day, might not work. You might need to switch your foods around to better match the timing. So that was what I meant by the experience, is a diet with 5 meals, a diet with 3 meals, they're both going to work. But the experience is going to be different, so you might need to modify some of the details in order to match what you're doing with the experience. That'll help you be consistent with that. So that's a little bit of feedback on the concept of time. And that would help us, I talked mostly about nutrition, but that helps us with exercise as well, is if we are limited with time, which everyone has the same amount of time, it's really just priorities and what we want to do with our time. It's just understanding, okay, where does eating healthy and how do I define that first of all? And then where does that fit in regards to my priorities? And then same thing with exercise. Just make sure that when you have time that you're spending it on the highest priority available to you at that moment. That can be mentally consuming at first. That's why people will often work with someone like myself to help them figure that stuff out, help them streamline it and keep them on track. But once you practice that, it becomes actually second nature. It becomes habitual, which means you're kind of doing it without really thinking that much about it. We've all had that crazy day at work where you're kind of reliving the day, but you're driving home, and all of a sudden you show up home and you're like, holy crap, I wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing driving. That's eventually what our actions will turn into, is habitual if we practice them with intent at first. Okay, if we look down, the next thing we have that people will sometimes bring up is they're not sure what to eat. And that would be lack of information. There's 1,000,000,001 nutrition programs out there. Sometimes that actually causes this feeling of almost like lack of specificity of information. So they can be overwhelmed with over information, and that causes them to be feel as though they don't know what to do. They have so much that they now have heard, but they don't know what to do. That is something that is pretty easily done with a nutrition program, so we can address that with specific foods. I often like to give those people specific options, but then give them leeway and teach them how to substitute those foods. So just for a simple example, they might start with chicken, rice, and broccoli. And that's going to get super boring super quick. Some people don't digest broccoli very well. Some people don't digest rice very well. Some people hate chicken. So we might say, okay, we know that that is a structure. It's a meat, a carb, and a vegetable. So we can substitute other meats that are still around the same fat content, because that way the calories will stay about the same. We can substitute other carbohydrates. So it doesn't have to be rice. It can be potatoes. It can be tortilla wraps. It can be pasta. We might also substitute other vegetables. And that helps us kind of have the fiber, have the satiety and food volume that makes us feel full enough to get to our next meal. If somebody has larger spaces between their meals, we might also add some fats to that meal, maybe a little bit of oil, maybe some nuts, maybe some nut butter, or a fattier type of meat, maybe even some cheese, some dairy. We would just add some fats, and or they can increase their protein, and or they can increase their fruits Their vegetables. But that would be what we'd start to do is if they don't know what to do, if they don't know what to eat, we start with specifics. And then we start to expand and say, hey, if you want to substitute this, here are some options. And then as they get comfortable doing that, we start to open up more options, then more options. So the program starts specific. That way they have clarity on what to do. And then we start to broaden that out. So that way there's more adjustability, which they'll find that they need with the chaos and craziness of life. And people who, even if somebody says, I don't mind eating the same thing every day, that's probably kind of bullshit because very commonly they will start to want options very quickly. And I am somebody who has dieted that way. I've done 3 diets where I lost 50 pounds in 10 weeks or less. I've done a diet where I lost 50 pounds in 8 weeks. The only food I ate was ground turkey, brown rice, and a little bit of a sugar-free marinara sauce for moisture. The reason why I chose that is I hate those foods. I hate ground turkey. To me, it has this weird texture and I don't like the taste of it. I hate brown rice. It's disgusting and I feel like I get no energy from it. And the marinara sauce was gross because it was sugar-free. Why in the world would I have chosen 3 foods that I hate and only ate that for 8 weeks? Is because I had no desire to overeat. So my brain worked very well with, hey, this is the option I'm going to give my body. This is the only thing you get. If you want more of it, go for it. But if you're not willing to eat more of this, then you're probably not actually hungry. You're just bored or you're tired or you're wanting food for the sake of just variety or something different. I knew that if I wasn't willing to eat those foods, I wasn't actually hungry. Now, that was very effective, but only for 8 weeks. I have not eaten ground turkey, brown rice, and that marinara sauce since that diet because they're gross and disgusting, but it worked for my goal. But that's an example where, just as an extreme example, if when somebody says, like, I'll eat the same thing every day, I literally know what that means, and I know what that feels like. You probably aren't going to want to do that. You don't even need to do that. There's tons of variety that we can put into your nutrition plan and still reach your goals, whether that's fat loss, muscle building, sport performance, whatever it might be. Next thing we look at is too many choices. That's the same kind of concept as we start with specifics and then we broaden out from there. Decision fatigue. Oh man, this is a big one. If you are the decision maker in your house or you have a job that's highly decision based, you're putting out a lot of fires all day, you're going to have decision fatigue, and that's going to really show up later in the day. You're going to make really poor choices. At the beginning of the day, you're going to make no choices. You're going to skip all the food. You're going to eat nothing. And then towards the end of the day, you're going to be tired as hell. You're going to say, screw it, and you're just going to eat everything and anything in the house. So if you have decision fatigue, that same approach works very well. Here are specific options. Don't think, just eat this. And then as the person starts to see results, as they start to get excited with the process, we'll start to then expand on those choices, and they'll have like an A and a B, then an A, B, and a C, and then we start to expand out and it doesn't feel as decision fatigued at that time. Next thing we have is trouble planning ahead. This is common. There's a lot of ways you can work on this. One of the ways I started recently, just within the last month, is my wife Meredith helps, like she's co-owner of the company and we run the company together. We made a 3-3-3 journal where people will spend 3 minutes writing down the wins of the day, 3 minutes where they're going to pick their top 3 for tomorrow, like the top 3 things they want to do the next day. And then the third 3 is what is your why? So that's going to take them, it often doesn't even take 3 minutes to write down the wins of the day, but they can set a 3-minute timer, give themselves 3 minutes to think of what was the win of the day? How did I get better today? How did I improve today? What was happy about today? What was good about today that I would like to improve or continue to do in my tomorrow? Then the second thing we said was second 3 minutes was the top 3 things you want to do the next day. Sometimes you only pick 1, pick 2, but you can't pick more than 3, only 3 or less. And then what's your why? Why are you motivated to do those things? Why is it important to you? It's really helpful to write that down because it kind of reinvigorates the motivation you have to make the choices and take the actions that you're going to need to do the next day to make those 3 things possible. when you end with motivation, it's very helpful because it gives you a positive mindset, a proactive and progressive mindset. That is extremely helpful. It's actually built on psychological impacts and nuances. So the 333 journal is something we started doing. And then there's extra time if you have at the end. Like, so if you set a 9-minute timer, that's one of the ways I've used this journal, is I'll set 9 minutes. I'll go through my wins of the day, the top 3 things I want to do the next day, what's my whys. And then with the remaining time, I use that as how space. Is how am I going to achieve those things? So this goes back to the systems, which is what we're talking about right now, is I want to give myself positive mindset, and that's the wins of the day. I want to list the things I want to do, which is my top 3. I want to remind myself why these things are important. That gives me motivation to do them. And then I take the remaining time to talk about how am I going to do it. So if number 1 is to work out, what does my day look like tomorrow? How am I going to fit that in? If Meredith and I have an early doctor's appointment, I'm like, oh crap, okay, I normally do my workout in the morning. Can I fit in a shortened version before we go? Maybe the appointment's at 9 or 10. I can still get up early, get my workout in. If the appointment's at 7, probably don't want to get up early to do that. So I might look and say, okay, when I get back from the appointment, I know I have to do these couple tasks. I have a Zoom call, but then, hey, there's this 2-hour window. If I come out of that Zoom and I, set a reminder and I get my butt up and moving, maybe before the Zoom, I put on my clothes. I put on my workout clothes. I'll put on a shirt. I'll put on my shoes. I'll turn the light on in the gym, which then bothers me because I feel like I'm burning electricity, losing money. But I'll set myself up. So as soon as the Zoom is over, I go boom, right out into the workout, crush the workout, come back, and then I finish my work day doing the rest of the stuff. But that's what I use the how space for the remaining 9 minutes, is to talk about, like, kind of think through how am I going to achieve those things. That is a way in which you can address, if you have trouble planning ahead, is to plan the night before for the next day, or you can do your 333 journal in the morning if that works better for you. You wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. Let me think through this stuff. Sometimes when people do their 333 at night, they might find that they get too concerned with how they're going to fit stuff in. It kind of almost like spikes anxiety. If that's the case for you, you can do your 333 journal in the morning and plan it out for that day. Next thing we have is they forget to eat until late. That's just planning. You want to plan when your meals are, set reminders in your phone. You can also sync meals together with transitions. If you know, okay, on the drive to work, I'm going to take this food with me and I'm going to eat it while I drive. There you go. You might say, oh, I typically have meetings from 9 to 10, and then I have a work hour from 10 to 11. As soon as that 10 o'clock hits, you might have a little notification that pops up on your phone that reminds you to eat, and you can eat something that's relatively hands-free or easy to eat, maybe as you work through some emails or do other projects. It's just a matter of planning ahead, whether that's doing the 333 journal or using notifications in your phone. I use those all the time. You can also link it with transitions. So I know when I go to work, when I'm driving to work, I eat. When I have X meeting at X time, I eat. When I come home from work on the drive home, I eat. You can just pair it with things that you already do or natural transitions between tasks that you already have in your day. Next thing we look at is if somebody says they're too tired to exercise. Often this will be they're either trying to fit it in late in the day or they're trying to do it early in the morning and they're just having trouble getting up out of bed. Let's start with that one. If we're having trouble getting up out of bed, we're likely not optimizing the night before. There is going to be a time in the day to where the effectiveness, like the productivity of your day kind of wanes off. And then you're going to have like a relaxation time. But that time, often people don't really have set in stone. They don't have it structured well. Let's just go through a random example. Let's say that somebody works 9 to 5, they get home, chores around the house, do odds and ends, whatnot, and they usually sit down at 8:30 at night. They're going to watch a little bit of TV, just relax a little bit, and then they'll plan to go to bed. So they sit down around 8:30. Then all of a sudden, that show or streaming show or whatever you're watching, if it's 30 minutes or an hour, it's done. It trickles into another thing. Then you're kind of half asleep on the couch or wherever. And now it's 10:30, 11 o'clock. What we could do is to say, okay, I'm going to sit down at 8:30. Then at 9:30 or say 10 o'clock, I'm going to get up. Even if I don't feel tired yet, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to my bed. In my bed, I'm going to do something that doesn't involve a computer screen or phone screen. So you might read a book. Maybe you'll do your 333 journal. You might do something in bed and say, you know what, I'm just going to naturally let myself get tired. If I try to read a book, if I try to do my 333 journal, I've also just closed my eyes and put on a podcast or an audiobook. I'm a very auditory-based learner. I can learn really well by just simply listening to something. I don't do as well reading things. I actually learn significantly better, sadly, by listening rather than reading, which was very frustrating for all of my teachers through all of the years of school. I never seemed like I was ever paying attention or writing anything down, but as long as I was listening, I was doing fine. But those are a couple options you can use. Is if you sit down at X o'clock at night, give yourself maybe 90 minutes max, and then go in bed. And in bed, do something that doesn't have a computer screen. So when I'm listening to a podcast, for example, I have my phone is on, so it's playing the audio, but my phone is sitting on my nightstand. I actually not even next to it. So I'll fall asleep with it on. Sometimes I'll set a timer. Audible has a timer, so I can set the timer. Sometimes it'll just play, and if I wake up to roll over or if I wake up to pee, I'll just turn it off then, or take the earbud out and just sit it on the counter or whatever. But those are some options you can do that helps you get into a better routine and get into bed earlier. What you'll find is you're going to fall asleep much earlier than you typically would think. If typically you continue to watch TV till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, then you get into bed, and all of a sudden now you have a hard time falling asleep, it's because you kind of got out of rhythm with your natural sleep cycle. If you're in bed and then you get sleepy, you can put the book down, you can put the journal down, you can, put the podcast or the phone over here, and then you just lay down and then boom, you're out. You don't fall asleep, then have to get up, turn off all the lights, do all the things, go up to bed, and then all of a sudden you're awake. So getting into bed earlier helps a lot. That is one of the best things, is just get to bed earlier. Then you can look at ways to optimize your sleep. Proper room temperature, have a light cover over your skin, so that way it desensitizes the skin to subtle changes in air current and whatnot, which can actually keep you awake. Some people like to do white noise or noise machines. Some people will do blackout curtains or an eye mask. You can do whatever helps you feel more peaceful or more settled. There's about 4 billion resources on YouTube about better sleep quality. So you can just go on YouTube and search better sleep quality ideas and pick a nice short, like 5-10 minute video, and they'll probably pop out a couple good ideas for you. But that is the first thing I would look at, is if I struggle to have energy to work out, is can I improve my sleep quality? Because then when you want to get up the next day, it makes it a lot easier to get up because you've had better quality of sleep. There's a million and one ideas for how to get up early. One of the ways is to not have your alarm clock within arm's reach. You can set your alarm clock across the room, whether that's your phone or an actual alarm clock. You can set it maybe in the bathroom if that's close enough to you. You just want something loud and obnoxious that in the morning makes a ridiculously stupid sound that you don't want to sleep through. And you have to get up out of bed to turn that sound off. Because you're typically not going to want to get back in bed, because you'll kind of tell yourself like, dang it, anyhow, I'm not supposed to get back in bed. I feel like a loser from getting back in bed. So you'll more often than not be able to talk yourself out of getting back in bed. Another thing is some people, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I think of one client right now who they have coffee rotation. I don't know what they actually refer to it as. Coffee rotations is what we're going to call it here. Is they have different coffees that they like. They have a coffee for every day, 7 days a week. They'll often rotate them because they're a coffee connoisseur, so they like to experiment with different things. And they have, like, say, for example, a Monday coffee. But if they don't get up in time, they don't get to have their Monday coffee, because the reward for getting up on time is having that coffee. And if they miss Monday coffee, they don't get that flavor again until the following Monday. Absolutely, probably most of you are going to be like, that's stupid, or like, that would never work. For this client, it works, and it's freaking genius. Absolutely freaking genius. I'm so proud of them that they thought of this, because they found out what is something that is a reward for them that motivates them to get up out of bed, and they're actually excited to get out of bed for. I like to work out early in the morning, so I'll get up in the morning, and usually it depends on the day and stuff, I'll skip some of the details. But I'll get up in the morning, I'll have some caffeine, and I'll start into my workout. I love getting to work out early. I usually am fired up. It's like my golden hour. It's when my brain is most like awake and firing on ideas. So I'll have my laptop open. I'll be listening to a podcast. I'll have my Google Drive open. I'll be typing in different documents, asking ChatGPT a bunch of questions. Maybe I'll be doing some check-ins for clients. I just leave my workout time. I have a timer now that's a 3-minute timer. So I usually take about 3-minute rest between my working sets, whether I'm doing single exercise, heavy, or circuits. But I'll set a 3-minute timer and I'll just click that thing. And as it's counting down, I'll do something that I want to do on my laptop or phone. And then when the timer goes off, I'll go do my working set. I'll come back, hit the timer, and blah, 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 blah. Now, I've been training since I was 16 years old with weights. I'm 42, so you can do the math there. I think it's 26 years. I am able to kind of turn on and turn off my mind with the intensity that I need in my working sets at this point. So I can multitask, and I would say that I'm able to do so without it being detrimental to my workout intensity. And that is evidenced by the fact that I've gained over 100 pounds of muscle tissue. Right now I'm 250 pounds, 6 foot tall, sitting around 11 point something percent body fat. I'm doing pretty well. Do I always want to be doing better? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I have found that by giving myself that mental space with a little bit of a timer structure, I actually love my workouts. I enjoy my workouts. I'm super fired up for them. If I try to just kind of stare at the wall and count down for 3 minutes, I feel like the workout's more tedious. It's actually more energy draining for me. I like to have the mental excitement and the kind of the creativity blended in with my workouts, and I find that I have a better quality workout. So there you go. Now, if we look at the next thing is not enough time to work out. One of the things I would ask is, how long do you think a workout needs to be? Yeah. So workouts can be 2 to 3 hours. If you love to train and you have a really high level elite goals, you might need 2 or 3 hours to work out. Probably only going to work out maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 times a week then, but you might have really long workouts. Other people, their workouts might be 60 minutes, others 30, others 20. I have clients, tons of clients who have 20-minute workout caps. We just set a timer for 20 minutes. They pick 2, 3, or 4 movements, or I pick it for them, and they just kind of go, and when the timer's up, they're done. We usually do that anywhere between 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, depending on their schedule and their goals. So a workout, when you say I don't have time to work out, my first question is, how long do the workouts need to be? Often, the powerlifting crowd, for example, they'll be like, oh man, I don't have time for 2-hour workouts. And I'm like, well, you don't have to do 2-hour workouts. So that might be how so-and-so does it on YouTube, but that's not how you need to do it. There's hundreds and thousands of people, probably tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have been extremely successful in strength progression and strength development with shorter than 2-hour workouts. Absolutely. I think of all my sports clients, my athletes that I work with, they might have a workout where we do explosivity, we do some kind of movement prep, dynamic movements, then they do explosivity, then we do a strength movement, then we do kind of some type of accessory on that day, depending on what they want to work on, whether that's more explosivity, hypertrophy, tendon strengthening, proprioception type drills, whatever it might be. They can get all that done in 60 minutes. So we'll have 60-minute workouts, they crush that stuff, and they're strong as hell. I mean, some of them are squatting over 2 times body weight is not uncommon in any way. So you can get stronger with less than 2-hour workouts. And depending on what your goal is, I would very strongly feel confident in making the argument that you tell me a goal, I'll tell you how you can do that in whatever time frame you give me. So if you say I want X and I want to train 3 times a week at 20 minutes, it might be the most brutal 20 minutes of your life, but we will achieve X. So I've been doing this for too long. I've been doing it, helping people for over 25 years. Helped well over 3,000 clients. Whatever the situation is, I've probably come across it at this point, or I know something that was very closely related, and we're going to be able to crush that. So that would be the big thing: is when people say they don't have time to work out. What's the time that you need? You might be surprised you don't need as much time as you think you do. If you're not sure what to do, or if you're overwhelmed, with too much to do. That's what our programming is for. And again, we start with specifics, then we start to broaden out and allow for substitutions, depending on what the person's goal is, if substitutions are appropriate for their type of goal. Or if they have more of a competitive nature, competitive goal, we might need to keep things very specific, and I control kind of all of the elements with their feedback, of course. But it kind of depends on what their outcome goal is, what depends on how much leeway we have with substitutions. Then if we look at inconsistent schedule, that's totally normal. I have some people, they'll have 2 weeks where they work night shift, 2 weeks day shifts. I have one person right now going through med school, and good God, her schedule's completely insane. So what we do is we look at transitions. We talk about their daily schedule, and we say, hey, between this and this, that's going to happen anyhow. You drive to work, then the start of work, and then you go from this job to that job. We look at those transitional spots. And we would say, hey, it looks like we can fit in 15 minutes here. At this location, what do you have that we can use for 15 minutes? Whether that's nutrition, what foods are available to them. If it's exercise, what kind of equipment is available to them. Like the girl who's going through, I just said it, just blanking right now. But she's going through, oh my gosh, med school. I forgot what I was even saying, like what the term is right now. But she's going through med school, and like her hospital has well, it depends on which hospital she's at. They all have small little spaces or a big, huge space. And then she also has an LA Fitness close to where she lives. So we'll just use whatever space she has. I rate workouts for all of the spaces and say, hey, at this time of the day, if you're near this location, do these workouts. If this time of the day you're in this location, do these workouts. That's how we build it, is around what their schedule is, where are our natural transitions within that schedule, what do we have available to us in each transition, and then make a program, make a plan, and see how that works. And we just kind of develop it and tweak it as we go. And then another, kind of we get into some mindset stuff. If somebody has an all or nothing thinking, that is, oh man, that's going to make or break you. That's probably going to break you. If it makes you, it's only going to make you for a short period of time, then you'll break. An all or nothing mindset is, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. Oh man, welcome to life. Things are not going to go perfect. We do want to do as well as we can within what we can control. But if there are elements outside of our control, we need to recognize that we can't control them. Therefore, we have to work within them. And then of all the things you can control, you're sure as shit not going to get all that right all the time. So you're going to actively make choices that are detrimental to your goals. We all do it. We do it for various reasons. When that happens, we want to identify what was the cause of that. How can we maybe address that in the future to where we make a better, worse decision, or we just actually make a better decision? So those are things we talk through with clients in their online journal. Every week we just say, how was the week? What went well? What didn't go well? Of the things that didn't go well, what did we identify that we could do better in the future? That kind of stuff. But that would be our approach towards an all or nothing. One of the concepts I like to use is from Atomic Habits. Actually, I think it's Elastic Habits by Stephen Guise. Elastic Habits by Stephen Guise, Guise. He talks about tiers, Tiers, of kind of goals. So your goals of exercise is, what's the best case scenario? Maybe that's 1 hour in the gym. Then tier number 2 might be like, what can I do even on like so-so days? I'm going to set a 20-minute timer, and maybe I'll do, just some weights I have at the apartment gym or at home. And then you have tier number 3, which is, what can I do on the worst day ever? And maybe that's 5-minute timer. I'm just going to do some bodyweight squats for 5 minutes. Boom. At the end of the day, as long as you do tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, you got something in. That's going to be something that builds us closer to where we want to be. That is one approach we'll use to break from the all or nothing mindset. Is it doesn't have to be only one option that's the best option if we do that or we do nothing. We want to have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, kind of like best case scenario, a good enough scenario, and then what's the worst day ever? What can we at least still get in? One of the things that I like to remember, it's a good memory for me, is back in 2020, Meredith's mother had a stroke, and we had to move her from New Jersey down to where we live now. And that involved just a lot of trips up to New Jersey, which was a really long drive, a lot of crazy weekends packing up the house, and a whole bunch of craziness. In one of these stretches of weeks that we were there, I was sleeping maybe 3-4 hours a night, along with doing all the work I needed to do, plus all the stuff around the house and to get everything moved. And my goal that week was, no matter what, I will do 10 push-ups a day. I was actually able to sneak away to the apartment gym 3 times that week, but every single night I did 10 push-ups before I went to bed. Does 10 push-ups help me build more chest muscle? Hell no. Does 10 push-ups burn a significant amount of calories? Hell no. 10 push-ups arguably does absolutely nothing for me physically, but it did a great thing for me emotionally and mentally. I knew no matter what was happening, no matter what chaos was going on, I was still doing something every day that helped me get closer to who I want to be, to my best self. 10 push-ups doesn't do much, but it was something. It was a feeling as though no matter what was happening around me, I could still control what was within me. If I feel that I have that level of control, man, I feel untouchable. I feel amazing. Anxiety is relatively low compared to what it would be otherwise. And you just feel more proactive. You feel more like ready to take on the world. Something comes at you and you're like, yeah, that's fine. I can crush that. I got this. You just have this more confidence in yourself and what you can handle if you can do something proactive every day, even if it is something as low as 10 push-ups. Now, 10 push-ups might kick your ass, and that's great if it does. That's fine. Start with 1 push-up. Start with 2, wherever you need to start. When I was 15 years old, the first goal I ever had in physical fitness was to do 250 push-ups and 250 sit-ups every day. I could not do 20 push-ups in a row. I could not do 20 sit-ups in a row. It took me 2 to 3 hours to do that every freaking night. And from my 15th birthday to my 16th birthday, I only missed 10 days. That was an insane year, absolutely miserable. I had no quality of sleep whatsoever. I was spending 2 or 3 hours every night trying to get in all these stupid push-ups and sit-ups. So that is where I started. So I do understand if somebody's starting where they're struggling to do a basic push-up, they're struggling to do a basic sit-up. I've been there. I know what that feels like. But the only way to get out of there is to try something that sucks a little bit, but do it every day so it sucks a little bit less. And then once it doesn't suck that bad, you got to add a little more. So it's just a progressive level of making things challenging enough that there's growth to it, but not so challenging that it shuts you down and you don't even think you can do it at all. Now, the last one I want to touch on is when people say they need to have quick results to feel motivated. What I often see with this is that their focus is on the results, but it's not on their adherence to what they need to be doing to create those results. Most often, this is not true for everyone, but most often, the people who say they need to have fast results to stay motivated, they are horrible at adherence. They will barely get 50% of what we're trying to do correct. So if we have a calorie target, say their calorie target's 1,800 to 2,400 calories every day, they might only get that 50% of the days. So we do it for 2 weeks, which is 14 days. They might only have done it for 5 to 7 days. And they're like, oh, I'm not really seeing results. Well, you're not going to get them. You're not going to get the results of the work that you don't do. That's, I'm struggling how to say that in another way, is that is something that sounds obvious. We don't get the results of the work that we don't do. But what's not always obvious for people is whether or not they're doing the work, because they're not tracking their adherence. They're not paying close enough attention to what they're doing compared to what they think they're doing. There's a disconnect between what they think they're doing or what they think they should be doing versus what they're actually doing. If you are someone who needs fast results to stay motivated, 100%, put 100% of your focus on what you're doing, not what you're getting, not the results. Don't even look at the results for a certain period of time. Give yourself, say, 2 weeks. Say, I'm going to freaking crush this action, this action, this action every day. I'm going to stare at that action until it's done. I'm going to stare at that action until it's done. I'm going to stare at that action until it's done. You do that day after day after day after day. And then at 14 days, you say, oh, hey, what happened from this? That's when you would look at the scale. That's when you would try on clothes. That's when you would take a photo. That's when you would do a body scan. Whatever the thing is that you're tracking the results, don't look at that. That is a distraction, absolute distraction. What you want to look at are the actions that you're doing every single freaking day that's going to contribute to the results that you want. So that is a suggestion, very strong suggestion, that if you are somebody who needs to have results quickly to stay motivated, do not look at the results. Look at your actions and look at them every single freaking day and make sure that you're getting them in. Oh, okay. Well, we made it through. I'm not sure how long this took, but it felt like forever. But hopefully you listened. Hopefully it was helpful. If you want any help, this is what we do. This is what our consultation process is for. We would take you through these friction points that are kind of related to what you struggle with. We would talk about systems that we can use that you relate to and you would find work well within your life. We would talk about the systems that would help you overcome those friction points. We would develop a system overall approach for you, and then we would work with you every single week to tweak and refine that as we go through it. If you have any questions, if you need anything, please, please, please reach out. You can reach out on whatever social media platform you're listening to this or watching this on. You can also reach out on our website, which is www.c3method.com. The 3 is spelled out, T-H-R-E-E, so it's C-T-H-R-E-E method.com. You can also send us an email at c3method@gmail.com. That's everything. Okay, well, that's all. I hope it was helpful, and thank you for listening.